Welcome to School of Rock Bottom with Oliver Mason. I'm an actor, a voiceover artist and a mental health coach. And I know firsthand that rock bottom can be the greatest teacher and a springboard for a beautiful life. And it's this life experience, passions, all combined that have given birth to this podcast. After all, those working in the creative industries are 3 times more likely to have a mental health problem, and those working in performing arts and entertainment are twice as likely to suffer from depression, and up to 15 times more likely to have an anxiety disorder. So as you know, I interview fellow creatives and very inspiring individuals who have hit rock bottom but survived. This is a podcast of hope and how to get out of the darkness and remain in the light. And this is a really special edition today because I am coming live and direct from the famous East Coast Radio in Durban, South Africa. And I've got the most incredible guest with me today. I have got the joyous and jubilant Justin Govender in the house. How you doing, Justin?
I'm very well, thank you, Ali. And yeah, been glad to be here today, man. Yeah.
You know, I was fortunate enough to be in Durban, and I thought, I've got to get in touch with Justin and see if he'll be kind enough to share his story with our viewers and listeners back in the UK and all around the world. There's quite a few people that follow this in South Africa as well. I'm just going to get straight to it, if that's all right, Justin. I've asked you on because you've got an incredible story to tell. You've had a rock bottom, and I'm going to start with the hardest question of all, and that is to take us back to your rock bottom moment. But before we do that, I'm just going to give the listeners and viewers a very quick bio, if that's all right, just so they know a bit more about you. So Justin Govender is the eldest of 5 children, born in 1978 in the small suburb of Asheville, Durban. And he had a great childhood, neither rich nor poor. He had a roof over his head, clothes on his back, and a plate of food on his table. Justin is an avid sportsman and better than average student at school. And on the 16th of June 1995, Justin was shot in the back by the police and he became a paraplegic at 17 years of age. You will discover through his journey that choices you make actually make you who you are. What was a tragic moment at the time was to become one of the most remarkable journeys of a lifetime. The motions of life, hitting rock bottom and fighting battles both physically and mentally, getting knocked down and standing back up one more time than you get knocked down. This journey has taken him through all of it. A battle between man and God, accepting reality and finally making sense of everything and eventually finding his sanity. You will discover how he was brought to this place he did not want to accept. However, he went on to find himself through wheelchair basketball. How Justin got involved and how it breathed new life into him was by pure luck, or as Justin would like to believe, the hand of a higher power. Justin had the absolute honour of representing his country, South Africa, at the World Championships in 2006, wow, and 2 Paralympics, Beijing 2008 and London in 2012. Incredible. His team became continental champions at the Inaugural All African Games held in Algeria in 2007. They also became the first team from Africa to win a game at the Paralympics in Beijing 2008, where they narrowly lost out on a quarter-final place against Japan in the final group game. And they went on to qualify for the Paralympics in London 2012, 4 years later, and what became his swan song. During his sporting career, he completed his high school diploma and went on to work in retail, then banking, and finally he found his place in HR as an HR specialist, recruitment consultant. Wow. So as I just mentioned, Justin, if we could start with your rock bottom moment, and then we're just going to kind of pan out from that point.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ali. I think you've captured most of my childhood in there, and I've actually got goosebumps listening to that there. But, it's sometimes people's lives are not all that it's made out to be. And I'm very fortunate in terms of my life journey. I got a reality check very early on in my life. And if I could go back to that place, I was 17 and, as a kid, you just make some choices to be around your friends and you want to be doing things that you've never done before. And, unfortunately, for me, the choice I made on June 16, the 16th of June, 1995, was a poor choice. A couple of our friends, we got together at a shopping center, and a friend of mine was approached by another guy and said that he had the keys to a vehicle. We jumped into the car. My friend drove the car, and a couple meters down the line, I knew the car didn't belong to the guy that gave him the keys. And with that said, you could have got out, but as a kid, 17 years old, you just wanna go along for the joyride,
Sure.
And to cut a long story short, about 15 or 20 minutes later, the cops gave chase because the car had been reported stolen. My friend panicked. I mean, he was just a kid himself, He panicked. He hit the gas. We sped up a road, and the car swerved. We got out the car. We ran. And then 50 meters down the line, I got shot in the back. Yeah.
Right.
Look, I think as a kid, I can never justify that. I think when you're lying there on that floor, you realize. I mean, the proverbial life flashing in front of your eyes. It actually happens. And the first thing I thought about was my parents. And the first thing was that they never raised me to be somebody like that. And I think that's the first thing that hit me. It's so funny. I never thought that in a life experience like that, or a tragic experience like that those were the first thoughts that came to my mind. You know, and I think it's because my parents never raised me to be that way. It was just a poor choice, and that's all I can put it down to. But that wasn't rock bottom. That was the beginning,
right,
of the dip, And I think because for 17 years of your life, you're an able-bodied person, and then all of a sudden this happens to you, your life takes another direction.
Sure.
And you've got to learn how to adapt, man. Otherwise, you'll die.
Yeah.
You'll literally die. And I think I went through the whole motion of feeling that I was going to walk again. I never thought that when I was in the hospital, or when I came out the hospital, I always believed that I was going to walk again,
Yeah.
But, and I never accepted. I could not accept myself. The first step was to stay alive, basically. And that wasn't in my hands. It was in the hands of doctors. It was in the hands of the capable nurses. It was in the hands of the people that that were literally taking care of me.
Yeah.
And I remember I went straight into believing. I believed in God. I mean, I've been brought up that way, and I believe there's a higher power.
Yeah.
And I believed I was always going to get right, huh? I think another, if I can go back to a low point in hospital, was when my parents came in, and my brothers and my sisters, they were standing around the bed, and obviously this whole thing was like such a shocker for them, in terms of the fact of what had happened to me, let alone the circumstance that I had put myself into.
Right.
But I think what really shook me was when I saw my father. My father's a strong person. He's a pretty tough guy, and he's other than tough, he's a disciplinarian. My dad always taught us the right way.
Yeah.
But aside from being tough, it's like you get a reality check when you see your dad break down, and I think that's where it brings you down to ground level. You really hurt people.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was like one of the moments I'll never forget in my life, because it's like the first time I ever saw my father cry.
Yeah.
Or my dad cry. Or my mom, I expected it from her.
Yeah.
But my father, no. But it's funny. Life has some leveling moments for all of us.
Yeah.
But the journey began, and as I said, the journey after that was 4 years. I just didn't accept. I couldn't accept the fact that I was on a wheelchair. I didn't accept the fact that, like, I was gonna be this way for the rest of my life. I always believed that I was gonna walk, Ali.
Yeah.
I always believed in, like, God was gonna do something.
Yeah.
For me, until like 4 years later, and we used to have a family altar. So
Right.
my mom and dad are very I wouldn't say religious, but they're faithful people.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad, he'll gather the whole family around. We'll stand around our bed, and my bed, and then they would pray. As we would pray as a family. And then I remember the day my father came in the one night, and I said to him, "Hey, Dad, I don't want you to pray here anymore." I said to him, I'm tired of this, yeah. You come in here, we pray every night. We pray for the same thing, that God makes me better, and that I would walk again. And I said to him, I'm tired of this. And I remember bursting into tears, Ali. And it wasn't only me, because I looked up and everybody else was also feeling the same way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say feeling the same way. They felt like, we can't do this, yeah. You can't go forward without God. And I told my dad, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. As hard as that sounded to them, they had to go out, because I was upset as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to upset them. And I think in hindsight, when I looked at it, that was my rock bottom. That was my rock bottom. It was the point where I had to do something for myself. I got up the next morning, and the first thing that came to me was like, you keep waiting for a miracle. You keep waiting for something to happen to you. It's time you be a miracle. It's two different things. It's, in life we sit back and we wait for things to happen, and it doesn't happen that way. And in my case, I was waiting for a miracle to happen, but it wasn't coming. It was time to be that miracle. I accepted the fact that I was disabled. I accepted the fact that I had to make a life for myself. I accepted the fact that I had to now do something. And I guess when you hit rock bottom, the only way you can go is up.
Absolutely. Wow. Justin, thank you, mate. I mean, what an incredible share there of what happened. It's incredibly moving. I mean, what testament of your character that one of the first thoughts were about other people and actually not yourself. And it seemed like that came later, understandably. And like you say, you just said, you made a poor choice, but you paid a very high price for that. And I think lots of young people, myself included, made lots of bad choices. So, it was certainly an extreme price to pay from my point of view. It didn't warrant at all what happened to you. But there's quite a lot to unpack there. There was a lot of detail. I hope you don't mind. I've done a bit of professional stalking on the internet, and I've picked out I've picked out a few little quotes that I found online. One actually involved my wife in a blog as well. Some direct quotes, and there's some other places I found it as well. I think somebody that hasn't been through, such a devastating injury, listening to this, wouldn't be able to imagine the physical or mental impact of something like that. And I think, obviously, you just described it very, very well. One quote that I got, if we talk about the physical aspect first, is you said, "It's like being buried neck deep in wet sand." Was a quote. That sounds really terrifying.
Look, Ali, I think it's, in my case, it's buried just under my chest deep, in sand. That's what it feels like, because you're carrying your body around.
Yeah.
You're carrying that other 3/4 of your body around. Look, but it's life, Ali.
Yeah.
It's life. You can walk out today and something can happen to you. We can pick up a different life-threatening disease along the way.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Yeah.
We have to adapt.
Yeah.
We have to look at the glass half full rather than the glass half empty.
Yeah.
And I think humans in generally look at things in a way like, what, this is the end of it. But, if you really sit down and you think about it, there's a solution for everything.
Yeah.
There's always solutions for everything. And I've never seen this, I think, at the point where I hit rock bottom. I've never looked back.
Yeah.
I never look back. I mean, like,
that's the thing.
You've got to look forward. You've got to think, what, I've got to find ways of doing things for myself.
Yeah.
In my own way.
Yes.
Find your space in the world, because obviously the world functions in one way for an able-bodied person, but I've got to find my way and how I am gonna cope in this world ahead.
And obviously at 17, it being such a pivotal moment in anyone's life where you're turning into a man at that point, and you're going through all those things that you are at 17. It sounds like that, I don't want to put words into your mouth, but almost depression, I guess, for 4 years. I don't know if you would call it a depression, but it seems like that was quite a long time you were in that state. The moment where you're talking about your dad coming in and praying together, that felt very painful to hear, because 4 years is a long time to be that mentally low. Did it turn into sort of a clinical depression or panic attacks or anything like that? How would you describe it?
I wasn't diagnosed with any clinical depression. I also I knew I couldn't allow myself to get to that place.
Yeah.
Because there were so many people around me.
Yeah.
The moment I dropped my shoulders or dropped my head, it let a whole lot of people down. I always looked at it like that. I let them down. It was my choice that got me to that place. I just didn't want to drop my shoulders or drop my chin in terms of the people I would have let down.
Yeah. Could I unpick that a little bit more? Because I read somewhere else that one of the things that you found hard in your recovery was trying to accept, and this is a direct quote, that you did it to yourself, I think were your exact words. Was that part of the sadness? Were you beating yourself up for what had happened? Were you sort of blaming yourself, and then that just caused immense sorrow? How did you? Because I get the impression that you've forgiven yourself now.
Yeah.
For that choice. How did you work through that? Was that a very long process, or was that something that you had to deal with within that 4-year period?
It's basically acceptance. There's a lot of things your body goes through. Yeah. There's a lot of changes that it goes through. There's a lot of frustrating things that happen to you. Like you lose your bowel control. You lose control of your bladder, and those are like basic things that you have when you're at 17 years old, or when you're an adult. You lose those kind of things. So yeah, you're gonna get frustrated. You get depressed. I would say that's the word for it.
Yeah.
But I had to understand that, like, these things are gonna happen to me. I had to accept the fact that those things were going to happen to me, and it wasn't nice.
Yeah,
it wasn't nice. But as time goes on, you tend to accept those things. You tend to accept, okay, this is the situation. Now, how do I make it better?
Yeah.
This is where I'm at. How do I get forward or move forward or get better?
Yeah.
That's the way you're thinking, and that's how you start building on positivity, and building on getting better.
Yeah.
But I can't say that you get to that positive place without being without going through that depressive stage, because it's a springboard for where you go to.
Absolutely.
You either choose a negative road or you choose a positive road. It's your choice at the end of the day. Hence, your choices make you who you are today.
Absolutely. And that's what fascinates me about this podcast, and obviously my own experiences as well, is that when you go to a place that's so dark, you just seem to experience the light in a different way. And wow, didn't you? From that from that rock bottom moment, the journey that you then went on is absolute proof of that, isn't it? And I suppose the irony is you probably wouldn't have experienced the Olympics, for example, had it not have happened, which is what a twist of irony is that, you know. And I think that's the thread through all the guests I've had on so far, regardless of whether their rock bottom's been physical, mental, addiction, grief, loss, whatever it is that you've got to find acceptance around whatever it is you're going through, and then you can then move through it.
Absolutely, Ali. And I promise you, that moment in my room with my whole family standing around me was the turning point for me, because that's when my life started moving forward, in all honesty. I mean, a couple of days later, my brother came to me and he said, "Hey, you know, Jas, I want to know, what do you want to do?" So I said, "I want to go back to school. I want to finish my matric." He didn't say it in a lot of words. He just said, "Jas, go and make a few phone calls." So, I did it. I made a few phone calls. I told him I was in school. I was back in school. I studied at home. I completed my matric. That was the first big thing for me, you know. It was the first positive thing that happened for me, like in terms of now I'm moving forward. And then a couple months down the line, Ali, I was at my physiotherapy, and a friend of mine who had just met on an accident as well. I mean, he wasn't a friend at the time, but I met him through physio, and he was driving past the local university there, and he saw a couple of guys playing wheelchair basketball. So he comes to the physio and he's like, "Hey, you have to come. We have to go and see this," like, you know. And I never knew there was like sports for people with disabilities. So I told my dad about it, and he picked me up at about 5, and I went down and I saw what it was all about. And, you know, the funny thing is, that was another life-changing moment for me, an epic moment, because I was sitting on the side, and I didn't engage in any sports with physical contact. I didn't engage in any sports. I didn't even think there was sport for people with disabilities. Yeah. And I get out there, and as we're watching the game, just 2 guys fly past us, and the one guy just flips. He gets knocked and he flips, and his chair goes rolling down the floor. Whoa. And I think what he did next, well, it actually was the story of my life. All he did was he picked up the ball, got back up onto his chair, threw the ball back in, and carried on playing.
Bang. It's amazing.
Carried on playing. And that is exactly what we need to do in life, you know. Get knocked down, get right back up. Throw your ball back in and start playing again. Huh?
And you know what? That was very nearly the title of this podcast for a while. I thought you get knocked back down, you get back up again. I remember that song where Chumbawamba. It was very, very nearly that, ladies and gentlemen, I must say. I want to go back to something you said a minute ago, because I think it's really, really interesting. I mean, the way you described it was, you know, wanting God to make a miracle happen. And I think people that are religious or spiritual will understand that mindset, and I think maybe even someone who's agnostic or atheist will understand a mindset of, you know, the world owes me something. I suppose that could be an atheist way of looking at it, or, you know, life's so unfair, why am I not getting all of these things? That might be a sort of another way of framing it. There seems to be a universal law, whether it's through religion, spirituality, philosophy, that once you accept where you're at and you then put positive energy out into the world, which you can only do once you accept, that actually, like you say, you can be the miracle, you know.
Absolutely.
And I've noticed that paradoxical thinking in my life throughout. You know, it's like if I'm ungrateful about my life, it's like the universe just gets the tap and goes, "You ain't getting any more." But then as soon as I'm grateful, I seem to get stuff. And I'm not talking about monetary stuff. You know, it can be relationships with my family and friends, just feeling more joyful. But as soon as I'm ungrateful, it's like I get nothing, you know. And it sounds like that really started to happen for you. What happened on a sort of spiritual level for you once you accepted it? Did you feel the light sort of pour back in because of that?
I think it was new life into me, man, Ali, because now I'm doing things, and sometimes when things are not going your way, try and do something for somebody else.
Yeah.
And try and do something for somebody else. It may not be in alignment with what you're not getting in your life, but go and help somebody else. Help somebody do something.
Yeah.
That you wouldn't even do yourself. And see the benefits of that there. You find happiness there.
I couldn't agree more.
You find a step forward. You're doing something productive. You're helping someone.
Yeah.
And I think that's helped me a lot in my life. I've been like that all my life. I grew up like that there. Always thinking of, not thinking, but putting other people first. I know you get to a point in your life where you can't naturally do that all the time, but that's basically the foundation of any successful story, or any, should I say, slipping into a depressive mode. Is try and do something that makes somebody else happy, and you slip out of that very quickly.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more with you. I think particularly in my 20s, I was quite, hedonistic, I suppose. It was about what could I extract from the universe. My mindset was, I'm here for a short while. What can I get? And I was unhappy. And it was for me as well. It sounds like for you, it was about how do I actually give back? How do I help somebody else? And that's been an absolute game changer for me as well. It really, really has.
I think it's kind of like the story of the alchemist. If you look at it, Ali, he's a boy that just went on a journey, And I think for a long time for me, it was just sitting still, thinking that I couldn't do anything. And then all of a sudden, opportunities started presenting themselves, albeit big or small or whatever it was. But the moment you start moving, life starts happening.
Yeah. And obviously basketball was a pivotal thing in your story. I know we just spoke about it, and don't worry, I haven't forgotten about it because it's a massive thing. Like you say, wasn't aware that this was going on. I would have thought as well, the community, being around other, other wheelchair users who in your situation, was that very healing as well? Just being around other people in the same boat.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it gave me a lot of confidence to be around a tribe of my own kind of people, so to speak.
Yeah.
Guys that are experiencing the same things that I am experiencing. Guys that had actually literally not walked, but pushed along in their life. They had a lot more experience than me. So learning from those guys and being able to pick up on things that they had done previously, or help to guide you down certain roads, it helps a lot.
Yeah.
Buddy.
Yeah.
And then automatically you get confidence. You start getting your confidence back, and that for me is like it's super important.
Yeah, of course.
With a disability, because what is a disability? It's only being able to do things in different ways.
Absolutely.
It's going against the norm. I mean,
which is cool.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Bang on. You got to do something different. I mean, you guys in London had the 2012 Paralympics. You could see what an amazing games that is. But go back and see where it started and what it started as.
Am I right, Justin, in thinking, I might have got this wrong, that you weren't really into basketball before this time?
So I was into football.
Yeah.
And cricket.
Right.
I mean, I was an avid sportsman. I grew up.
Yeah, I know you're an avid sportsman, but you weren't massively into basketball though, right?
Not at all.
See, I only learnt that researching you, because I just assumed you were a great basketballer already. So how did that come about?
So I like contact sports, and I like the team sports. I was very into team sports before my accident. So basketball was actually the best platform for me I mean, it was the first platform I was exposed to in wheelchair sports. But I took to it like a duck to water. It's the transitional skills because your body starts learning again. Because no matter what people say, physically you start getting stronger as well. You start getting your balance back.
Mm-hmm.
All those things start coming back. But why basketball, Ollie? Because it just made perfect sense for me.
Yeah.
It's fast. It requires you to think quickly. It's full contact. It's not like where you just somebody in a wheelchair and throw a ball, albeit that's another sport for a different disability, and with no disrespect to that, but I prefer the full contact sports.
But the thing is, Justin, you didn't just play. I mean, this is crazy here, right? You represented South Africa at the World Champs in 2006 and 2 Paralympics, Beijing 2008 and London 2012. I know I said this earlier, but I think it's worth repeating. Your team became continental champions at the inaugural All African Games in Algeria 2007, and you became the first team from Africa to win a game at the Paralympics at Beijing 2008 and got to the quarterfinals. I mean, that's really high level basketball.
Yeah, to tell you, when we started, I didn't think of it like that. I always thought it was going to be just a sport that was going to keep me busy. And then when I got up to Johannesburg and see at the Mandeville Center there, all the different provinces that had teams and guys that were competing, and you know what, we took it to another level, And I was fortunate that at the time, sponsors were starting to come in. So it made it a lot more easier for the team to get out and travel. We traveled a lot, Ollie. And as we traveled and we played other teams, we got better. We got better. We were much stronger. And then we started challenging the teams in Europe, which are about the best in the world, aside from Australia. But Europe has all the talent there. I mean, they had already formed their leagues were well established. You travel for 6 to 8 months a year, maybe even more. And to put ourselves against those guys, you realize that you in something professional,
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be a part of. And as a sportsman, it's like being a kid in a candy shop, huh?
It's amazing, really. I mean, I can be a little bit guilty for sort of overthinking things. I'm a bit of an overthinker. I'm just trying to put myself in your position. And I definitely think my mind would play this game, and there might not be something that's ever crossed your mind or that you think is even valid to think about. But I think if I was in your position, I'd always think, yes, it was obviously terrible what happened to you, no question. But you got to go to the Olympics and have this amazing sports career, which, I mean, you might have had one anyway, right? I guess. Have you ever sort of gone down that thought process that if that bad thing hadn't have happened, you wouldn't have got this great thing? Have you sort of played that out in your mind a few times, or is that just me overthinking again?
No, not at all. Ali, I think it always, when your life plays out, I mean, it's like if I had to look at myself 20 years before and this hadn't happened, you know, this whole 20 years didn't happen. If I was at that point, I was a kid that was like, just didn't see anything happening. And as I said, like, as time goes on, you start achieving things, and those little things become bigger things, and they become bigger, and hopefully they become even more bigger things. But if you ask me if I would have thought that at that time, never.
It's amazing. I've just basically pulled out a couple more quotes, and then I'm going to ask you a question about the quote, if that's all right. So one I've got here is, I never thought of failure as a setback. Instead, I always thought of it as momentum, and I kept bouncing back with an abundance of optimism. Where do you think that mindset comes from? Do you think it's something that was instilled in you as part of your upbringing, or do you think there's just like a burning light that you inherently have that like refuses to go out?
I think there's a burning light in every one of us, Ollie. I see some of us have traumatic experiences that allows that light to shine. That allows that light to come out, or that fighting spirit. Everyone has it in them. It's just how it gets activated, and normally it's tragedy. Normally it's a realization that you're going down the wrong road. It's like wrong roads have to be made right. I mean, like, how do you know how do you know the light's on if you're not in darkness? You know?
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to go to those dark places, and the light brings you through. But like, failure is part of life, man.
Yeah.
If you really think of it, I mean, failure is, how would you know what success is if you don't fail? I mean, lots of successful people will put it down to how many times they failed. There's nobody that just becomes successful over 1 or 2 failures. You got to fail 1,000, maybe 2,000 times.
So anyone listening to this now maybe isn't a like really dark spot. Maybe they've gone through something similar to what you experienced or something else, but they're in that really low pain. I suppose you're saying, hold on, right? Just hold on.
Absolutely. It's about moving. Keep moving. Keep moving. Don't stay stuck in a place. And it's very easy. Yeah. It's very easy to get stuck in a rut, because sometimes people don't have that shoulder to cry on, or that support structure that some other people have. But you've got to keep moving, man.
Yeah.
You've got to keep moving. It's imperative. Things happen. Things happen along the way.
Another quote here, life is big and messy and imperfect. It's simply part of being human. And yes, some of us struggle more than others and have to work harder just to show up every day. But you can't beat the person who never gives up. I really, really like that. I think the story we tell ourselves plays a big role in our mental health and our mental fortitude. And it sounds like you sort of turned it around from maybe feeling, I don't want to put words in your mouth, like a victim of something, to actually, no, I'm actually the survivor of something, and I'm gonna problem solve how to navigate my way out of that. Did you find that the story you told yourself around what happened and who you are in your life started to change? Did you start seeing yourself as more of the hero in your story rather than maybe a victim of your story? Was there something around that, perhaps?
I've never looked at it as a victim. I never looked at myself as a victim. I think more a victor.
Cool.
In the whole situation. And I think I said it in the beginning, Ali. It's not how many times you're knocked down, it's how many times you stand up.
Yeah.
If you get knocked down and you stay down, then you're knocked out.
Yeah.
But if you stand up again, you've earned the right to fight again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I know it's not easy for some people. I know that it's not as easy as I'm making it sound, because being in that position, you can't stay down for a long time.
Yeah.
But just remember, it's all it takes is one step, and you back up again, and you just move forward from there.
Thank you, Justin. Yeah, I've got another one here. There are many times. There was many times that you felt overwhelmed, but it was really in these difficult moments that you persisted, is another quote that I found. Is this something that you find that you have to sort of consciously still do? I guess what I'm asking is, are there times in life now where you can feel overwhelmed and you have to feel like you have to persist? Has it become sort of like a natural thing that you do, or is it something that you consciously do now?
I think I persist all the time, Ali. There's a lot of things in my life. I think would work with just your normal personal life. You've got to persist with things, man. You got to remain constant, but at the same time, you got to push on with things. And I think a person with a disability has to try a bit more harder than an able-bodied person, if I can say that there.
Right.
You've got to stand up and be counted, and it's not easy, but you've got to persist, man.
Yeah.
I agree.
And how are things in South Africa, being a person with a disability, I came across an article a few years ago now, I think it was 2014, where you were denied access into a nightclub. How are things in South Africa for someone like yourself? Is there still discrimination? Yeah, just how does the land lie with that over here?
So it's changed since then.
Yeah.
Since that incident. But look, I think in terms of what we are doing in our country at the moment, in terms of every new building that's built, there are architects and planners that are accommodating places. Not accommodating places, but accommodating people with disabilities when they're building those buildings, parking spots, toilet facilities, ramps that are built in accordingly. You can't change pretty much of the old stuff that's still there, but you can see there's progress. I mean, we're fortunate here in Durban. It's fairly flat. I mean, Cape Town's the same as well.
Yeah.
But I think we're moving in the right direction in terms of people with disabilities. I don't think we got it 100% right. I don't think anybody's got 100% right. But we're getting there, and I think it's got a lot to do with that Paralympic team. The South African Paralympic team's probably rated in the top 10 in the world.
Wow.
And for a long period of time, and we've had some highly successful athletes along the way that has raised a lot of awareness across the country. So yeah, I think corporates bought into it, and every new building that's being built is now accommodating people with disabilities. So I think that's a 100% step in the right direction. Yeah,
that's really good to hear. It's really good to hear. Hope you don't mind me asking you a slightly personal question here. I guess this is really for somebody that might find themselves recently a wheelchair user, particularly someone maybe around a similar age or not. I know you're happily married.
Yeah.
And if my maths is correct, been married 14 years. I got that right?
Yes.
See, now I'm going to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think you met your wife after you had the injury. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
For anyone who finds himself in this situation and they're maybe worried about dating or meeting somebody else, have you got any advice for anybody in that situation? Because you clearly met your other half, after the incident. And got any sort of advice or tips around sort of dating or any worries you might have? I appreciate this is a slightly personal question.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the question because I think there's a lot of guys and girls with disabilities that are shy or scared to do it. I was that person as well, very shy, very reserved in terms of how was I going to explain my disability to someone. I would always think that there, or would the person accept me just with my wheelchair? It's often thoughts that go through your mind, but my wife's an amazing person, and I just like to say that there are those amazing people out there. You gotta find them. And if I can give any advice to any person with a disability, is be open, honest, be transparent. Don't be scared to discuss things that you'd otherwise feel uncomfortable about. If you feel uncomfortable about something, or if somebody feels uncomfortable about it, there's an explanation for it, and you're the best person that can explain that. And I mean, if it's not something that somebody likes or can accept, then you move on.
Right.
You move on, because you're going to find that person that's going to accept you for who you are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you find that mental health in general for you is something that you have to maintain in any way? The only reason I ask that is a lot of the guests I have on, they sort of talk a lot about having to sort of keep it maintained in the same way that a physical person, does at the gym. You go to the gym. Is there certain things that you're aware that you do to kind of keep in this, optimistic, strong headspace that you clearly are today? Or is it just something that happens naturally for you now?
I actually like that question. And I think in terms of the time that we are living in, and with social media and with things that are just posted across public platforms, or people just get to see those platforms where they get to say what they want to say, or just have an explosion in their minds and they express themselves on these platforms. I feel there's a lot of negativity in terms of what we see through social media, or what is posted on things. I think there's a lot of things for kids out there that they shouldn't be seeing, and I think we're seeing there are a lot of kids feel like they're missing out on certain things, through social media. So for myself, what I do is in order to keep positive, I like listening to motivational things, people's life stories, people that have gone through life and experienced things and have come out on the right end of things, for example. Or I listen to positive music rather than.
So you're going to love my podcast then, Justin. You're going to be tuning into every episode. Clearly.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Ollie, I believe these kind of platforms are highly important, especially in the times that we're living in. It's very easy for people to slip into a mindset like, I'm missing out on something. Or
social media breeds that, doesn't it? A fear of missing out. You always feel like someone's having a better life doing something somewhere else, because social media kind of gives that story.
Look, it comes down to how many views you get, how many likes you get. I mean, some people, if you don't like their photos, they will ask you, why didn't you like my photo?
Right.
Or they didn't get a reaction out of you, and they think that this person's saying something about you. Or somebody posts something and they read it and it's like, why is this guy talking about me like this?
Yeah.
But it's people living in your mind for free, rent-free.
Yeah.
And I really feel that, like, we need to start living again. In terms of the real world and not in our phones. Look, I think it's a conversation for some other time. But to get back to what you're saying, Ollie, I read positive things. I like reading sports stories, for example. People that have taken adversity and turned it around. Yeah, those are my kinds of things that I like to read. Things I like to listen to. Things that are positive. Yeah. Spreading a bit of love around. But yeah.
Yeah. And does that apply to things like music as well? And
that's it.
And,
There's a lot of negativity everywhere. If you look at it, I mean, you look at all the stories that actually get people looking, what is it? It's shock marketing. Yeah. You look at how people post things of people getting hit, or somebody getting knocked, or it's an accident, somebody getting shot. Those kind of things attract more attention than anything else. Yeah. And that's why these platforms are important.
Yeah. Thanks, Justin. I think I'm really shocked by the time, because we're actually running out of time here. This is crazy. The last hour has just absolutely flown by. Just like do a double take at my watch. You, I think, would be an ideal guest to ask this question to. Obviously, not everyone is going to experience the rock bottom that you've described, but I think a lot of people, it's very common for a lot of people to feel stuck in some way in their life, just stuck. And yours was a big example of that, and it was a very dramatic way to feel stuck, literally. But if anyone's just feeling stuck in their life and feeling like, they've got nowhere to turn, maybe feeling a bit claustrophobic about where they are, what advice would you have for somebody who wants to sort of make a change of mindset and of maybe ambition in their life?
I think it's very simple. Make that change. Yeah. I think lots of us procrastinate, Ollie, myself as well. But as soon as you take that first step and then you build on that, you just positive things start happening in that direction. Yeah, you'll find that, like, if you sit back and you say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, you'll stay in your rut. But take that first step.
Be your own miracle, like you said early on.
Yeah, be your own miracle, man. And at the end of the day, whatever you put your mind to, you can do it. You can do it, and it starts with one simple action. Yeah.
Maybe to end on this question, potentially quite difficult, you generously shared at the beginning the moment in the hospital quite vividly. You know, your family being around you in hospital and how much pain you were physically and mentally. If you could go back in time and be in that room and speak to yourself, you know, as that 17-year-old and it's just happened, as upset and distressed as you were, what do you think you might say to that Justin who's 17?
Everything's going to be okay. There's nothing you are not going to achieve. There's nothing you're not going to achieve. You just got to keep moving.
Yeah.
That's it. And yeah, it's going to be okay.
Oh, Justin, I could speak to you for so much longer, mate. I really appreciate you coming on here and just spilling your guts and your story to help other people. It's highly commendable, and I really, really appreciate it. It's a great excuse to see you in Durban as well, isn't it?
Well,
yeah. And I'm sure we'll hang out more before I go.
No, sure.
But, you know, Justin, thank you so much, mate. I really appreciate it. And, you know, we'll have a little conversation off air. There might be a couple of links that we put in the show notes if there's any organisations you want to talk about, and obviously any other links to Justin or his social media, perhaps. I'll put it all in the show notes there. But Justin, thanks again, mate.
Wow, appreciate it, Ali.
Hey, really, really, it's been a pleasure the last hour. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Please like, review, share this with your friends. Do write a review. Apparently that really helps the algorithm, apparently. So yeah, do that. That would be great. And as always, there's going to be another episode in 2 weeks' time. Unfortunately, the next episode won't be in Durban, South Africa. I'll be back in London, but hopefully I'll find a good excuse to come here again and interview some more amazing South Africans. And by the way, if you are listening to this in South Africa and you want to be on the show, reach out, because I do plan on coming back. And I just want to thank East Coast Radio as well. I mean, this is an incredible studio. This is absolutely brilliant. So thank you, East Coast Radio, as well. I've got a great contact here now. Hopefully doing a few more of these. But anyway, I will shut up now, and I will see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Take care of yourself. Thank you.